All right, so today we're going to be working questions 9 through 12. We're going to be looking at the circumference. The circumference of a circle is basically the distance around the circle. So here we see a picture in question number 9. If the circle, let's say I was to draw a string, I was to grab a string, I started here, I go all the way around it, then I measured the length of the string. That's something how we can measure the distance around the circle. However, there is a formula. We can Google it if we ever forget it, later on. You guys ever need to find, oh, what's the formula for the circumference of a circle? Google will be a good source. They can give it to you. But I'm gonna say for today, I'll give you the formula. This formula for the circumference. I'm gonna use C for circumference. It is gonna be 2 times the radius times the number pi. Now, radius, remember, it is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. So here for number 9, for example, here I gave you guys the radius. See how there it is. Now in number 10, notice I'm going to give you the diameter. Now, interesting, the diameter is basically radius times 2. So whether you're given the radius or the diameter, you should be able to work this. Now, if you Google the formula, sometimes you might find the circumference. They give you the same formula, just written in a different way. They say circumference, it is diameter times pi. Well, be careful. 2 times radius is the diameter, right? So technically, it is the same formula, but they're giving it to you in a written a different way. However you want to see this, that's the same thing. All right, let's take a look at number 9. IJ, the segment IJ, is a radius of the circle. And yeah, I can see that I is in the center of the circle. J is a point on the circle. So the segment IJ is from the center to the edge of the circle. And I see the measurement is 17. And yeah, it says the length of IJ is 17. Find the circumference of the circle. Fine. So I remember the formula. It is circumference is equal to 2 times the radius times pi. Now, in your case, for pi, you can use the pi symbol on your calculator, or if we're going to use decimals, we can use this as 3.14. Again, either you can use the pi symbol, there's a key on your calculator that says pi, or you can use the 3.14. However you want, it'll be okay. There is a difference. If you use pi or use 3.14, our difference sometimes our answer is going to be off, but it's going to be a little different. However, I'm going to accept it either way. I'm doing my key on my homework, and when it gets graded, it will accept either of the two answers. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to type it on my calculator. I'm not going to show it, but I'm just going to go 2. So I'm going to say my circumference, in this case, is going to be 2 times 17, because the radius is 17, times, I'm going to use the pi symbol. I'm going to use the key that says pi. So 2 times 17 times pi. According to my calculator, I get 106.81411502. I never said where to round, right? There's no thing that says round it to the nearest tenth, to the nearest thousand. It doesn't say where to round. Usually, mathematics, when it's not specified, like arcade, it doesn't say where. And obviously, I'm not going to have you guys go all continuously. Um, what we do when it's not specified, we round it to 2 decimal places. Now, for those students that don't really watch my lectures, they're gonna be confused. And I know I'm gonna be getting emails, Mr. Leonzo, where do I round it to? And my answer will be what I said on the video, right? So whenever it is not specified, we round it to 2 decimal places. Okay. So let me take a look at my third decimal place, which in this case is a Ford. Ford, it is small because 4 or less is small. So I'm going to ignore that number. So my answer happens to be 106.81. Again, if it is not specified, round it to two decimal places. Now, in your case, if you guys did not use the pi symbol, you guys used the number 3.14. So you guys went 2 times 17 times 3.14. Your answer should round out to 106.76. Again, there'll be a little difference, but my homework will accept either of the two. All right, let's take a look at question number 10. IJ is a diameter. Okay, so now this we know it's a diameter. Now, one more thing I want to say here too. Notice how the 14 is in the center, close to the point, right? That basically means is that the whole diameter. If I wanted to specify if it is a radius, I will be putting it somewhere like right here. So it shows it's a radius. Let me show you guys how I did it on number 9. See how 17 is to the side, is not in the center? Okay, so here again, 14 is the diameter. Find the circumference of the circle. I remember I gave you guys two formulas. Circumference is 2 times the radius times pi. And I also say, well, 2 times radius is the same thing as diameter times pi. In this case, because I have the diameter, I'm going to use my second formula, right? 2 times radius. So I'm just going to go 14 times pi. So I'm going to write my first three decimal places, 43.982. My third decimal place is it is small, so I'm going to ignore that. So my answer will be 43.98. Again, I'm using the pi symbol. If you use 3.14 instead, 14 times 3.14, it rounds up to 43.96. Okay. Either one, 43.98, 43.96 will be correct. Now, if you decide to go in the middle, 43.97, that one Canvas will mark it incorrect. It is one or the other. Okay, we're working up until 12. So let's take a look at number 11. Seems like we're getting the hang of circumference. So it says AB is a radius of the circle, the segment AB. And yeah, I can see A is in the center, B is on the circle. So the segment AB is a radius. The circumference of the circle is 152.7. So now they gave me that the whole distance around the circle is 152.7. I'm going to say that's my circumference. Find the length of AB, the segment AB, rounding to the nearest tenth. Okay, now here we are specified. So we're going to go to one decimal place. Okay, so I remember my formula. Circumference is equal to 2 times the radius times pi. I'm given that circumference is 152.7. So let me rewrite this as 152.7. It is equal to 2 times the radius times pi. And I'm trying to solve for radius. I want to have radius by itself. So on both sides, let me divide by a 2 and a pi. Because that way on the right side, the 2's cancel out, the pi's cancel out. So I just get radius on the right side. So that's easy. Now on my calculator, I'm gonna go 152.7 over. So as a fraction, I'm gonna divide this 2 times pi. Now, if you're able to type it as a fraction, go for it. If you're gonna be using calculators from your phone or somewhere else, put the bottom inside parentheses. Because if you just type in, if you were to just type in 152.7 divided by 2 times pi, the calculator sees this as 152.7 divided by 2 and then multiplies pi, which is off, right? That's going to be different. So like I said, if you're going to use non-scientific calculator, or especially those from the phones, make sure you use parentheses for the bottom. If you were to put the 2 and the pi inside parentheses, it knows that it will do that first. If you can type it in as a fraction, the calculator I gave you guys in Canvas, you can type it in as a fraction. So I'm gonna assume you can do that. 152.7 divided by 2 times pi. If you use the pi symbol, you're gonna get this as 24.3. I rounded to one decimal place because it was 24.302. If you use 3.14, you get 24.315, which still rounds up to 24.3. So in this case, it will not make a difference. Okay, let's take a look at number 12. AB is the radius of the circle. The circumference of the circle is 102.1. Find the length of AB. Round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so again, I remembered the formula. Circumference is 2 times the radius times pi. I know my circumference is 102.1, so I have 102.1 is equal to 2 times radius times pi. I'm going to divide both sides by 2 pi because I want these 2's and these pi's to cancel out. So I have 102.1 divided by 2 times pi is equal to the radius. I'm going to type that in. If you use the pi symbol, so let me write it up here. If you use the pi key from your calculator, your answer will be 16.2. If you use 3.14 on your calculator, your answer will be 16.3. And I'm going to say using the pi symbol is a little more accurate, but I'm not going to say 3.14 is wrong. Either one is correct.